What is up, guys, and welcome into another episode of the Ain't It Funky podcast. My guest today is Brett Clur. Brett is a drummer, drum teacher, and blog writer based in South Africa. He has a YouTube channel with 86,000 subscribers where he has all different kinds of video lessons, videos on how to emulate famous drummers' styles, advice for up-and-coming musicians, and more. I've been watching Brett's videos for years now, so I'm very excited that he took the time to chat. In our conversation, we spoke about how he grew his YouTube and social media channels, how he broke into freelancing and continues to be successful doing so, how he comes up with ideas for his YouTube videos, and more. Go follow Brett on Instagram, and of course, go follow his incredible YouTube channel at Brett Clur Drums. If you enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe wherever you're listening. The video version is available on YouTube as well. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy. All right, Brett Clur, welcome into the podcast.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, Brett, take me back to the start of your life. What got you into music? What was the kind of music that you were listening to as a kid? Yeah, take me back.
Cool. So yeah, my dad is like an incredible blues guitarist, like brilliant. So I basically grew up listening to that type of stuff. A lot of also Christian rock music, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I was one of those kids that started playing drums around 3 years old, and I then became one of those back in the day child prodigies. I don't know if you've noticed, but child prodigies today are way better than child prodigies back then. But yeah, I was playing grooves and fills and sitting in with my dad's band at a really young age. And yeah, essentially I was listening to a lot of rock music. I was always a big rock guy. I loved bands like Thousand Foot Crutch, Skillet, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin. That was my childhood going into teenager.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be musical background. And then I eventually pivoted near the end of my school career into jazz and fusion.
Okay. And so did you start taking lessons as a child when you were 3, or were you self-taught, or?
Yeah, so my dad in his band, they had a guy who was a professional drummer. He eventually moved out. We live in a really small town. He eventually moved out to go actually be a pro. But he was teaching me from 4 years old, kind of. I remember it's ingrained into my memory, but he taught me how to play double strokes, but they were called mama dadders because a 4-year-old's not going to understand double strokes. So I always sat there on a pad going mama dada, and then eventually I could blaze those out. And then he moved away, and I stopped getting lessons, and then I was kind of just on my own for a few years as a kid. And then I actually got a proper teacher when I was about 12. And then that's when I started learning how to read, how to play different styles of music, like Latin grooves and swing and that type of thing.
Okay. And did you study drums at all, in a college, or no?
No, so I went straight into just teaching out of high school, but I don't know if you in the UK they have this thing called Trinity. Yeah, it's online. I did do a performance diploma. It's called an LTCL. It's the equivalent of a third year performance college degree, but only the performance aspect of that. So I did that. I had to learn Dream Theater songs and Dave Weckl songs note for note to kind of get that done. But then other than that, I didn't study or anything.
Okay. And then so you started teaching straight out of high school. So did you have any other jobs besides teaching?
No. So in my small town, there were a few local schools that needed a drum teacher. So I just worked part-time at each one, which was cool. Okay. Yeah, I used to be a really shy guy. And then when I started teaching, they kind of broke that. So I was a part-time teacher for like 2-3 years, and then I eventually landed a full-time teaching job at a junior school. So
Right.
like just before COVID and a few years before that, I was teaching, I don't know, maybe 45 kids a week that were 13 or younger, which was cool. Yeah.
Okay. And then, because you started posting drum videos like 4 years ago, so just before COVID hit, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So was that around kind of around that time? Did you get more and more, I guess, into making videos and practicing during did the lockdowns really kind of give you the time to invest into videos, and then you
No,
managed to make it into a
so it actually,
freelance
yeah,
business?
it
Sorry,
actually
yeah.
started before COVID. Because I was teaching those kids, none of them would ever get past like a beginner level, except for maybe 2 or 3 odd ones. And I'm really into teaching like more intermediate, advanced stuff. So
Right.
then I started an Instagram page just to kind of get some ideas out and just post them, and I didn't really have a goal. I just did that to kind of use it as a like an outlet. So I'd be teaching kids how to play like basic grooves in the day, but then in the afternoon I'd be filming like, here's this cool, I don't know, quintuplet chop or something like that, just to kind of um not feel like I'm just in like the beginner stage of teaching people all the time. Um, and then that kind of grew, but it didn't actually grow in COVID. During COVID, I kind of kept it the same. I did start a YouTube channel in COVID, but if you go back and watch those videos, they're like terrible. They're like really bad. So don't actually watch those. Um, but yeah, it was actually probably 2022. I like jumped onto the whole Instagram reel trend as it was getting big. So I think that's where the popularity of like my Instagram page came from, where I was teaching things, but just in a strategic way to get views,
Okay.
which like I knew Instagram was heading, because now we all sit and watch reels, but at like the beginning of 2022, I don't think most of us were doing that.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. And then, so I guess then that took people over naturally to your YouTube channel, and grew your YouTube channel simultaneously, right?
Yeah, a little bit. YouTube's never. So, okay. So what actually happened was I started cross posting. So whatever reel I'd make for Instagram, I'd post on YouTube.
Okay.
Which I wish I never did actually, because what happens on
Mm,
YouTube is you have YouTube Shorts and then you have long form videos, and you get Shorts viewers. So on YouTube, I was getting millions of views a month, but actually on the normal videos, it would only be like max like 10,000. So
okay.
the crossover was not actually worth it, and I was putting too much time into making like shorts and reels, but not long videos, and it just that's why I actually stopped. So I don't really make shorts and reels anymore. I am going to start again,
Okay.
but just with like a different strategy behind it. The only reason I kept doing it was I was like really into like the number of views I was getting. So like you
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and a video gets like 100,000 views and like a bunch of comments, and you're like, wow, sick. That's awesome. I like that, feels so cool. But then you think like, why? What's the point? If I'm getting 100,000 views, why? So then I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, yeah, I'm not making money from that, but I'm putting a lot of time into it. Um, yeah, so if I were to like give anyone advice, if they want to like get traction on social media, there always has to be somewhere for it to head. So like if you're getting 100,000 views in a video, why? I keep saying why. So, but for an example, if you have like a course to sell, that would be cool. You'll get 100,000 views. Maybe 1% of the people who watched your video will buy a course, or like 0.01, and then you make a bit of cash from that. But yeah, what happened with me was I was making all these videos, getting all these views, getting nice comments and bad comments, but making nothing from it. So didn't actually like. I'm not like a actively gigging drummer, so it's not like it was getting me gigs or anything either.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of went on a tangent there, but
No, 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 no. But so, but did you not manage to monetize your YouTube channel through through
Yeah, I did.
those
So
views, or okay.
I don't know. Do you know how YouTube monetization works? So with shorts, you like what ended up happening was shorts weren't monetized first, and then they became monetized at the
All right.
beginning of 2022. But there's there's a like a metric called CPM, which is how much an advertiser pays or whatever. But anyway, it just means how much money you make um, from a video. And with shorts, it's like tiny. So a video with
Okay.
5 million views on YouTube Shorts will pay out like less than $100, if that makes
All
sense.
right.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
more long form. And because I was posting all those shorts, I was getting lots of subscribers and whatever, but it wasn't converting to long form videos. So long form videos on YouTube would only end up making, I don't know, less than $100 a month as well, but like from everything. So that's why I like
Okay.
cut making YouTube shorts. Like I'm not going to do that anymore. Um, but yeah, so that's why that kind of stopped. And I was getting like a lot of traction on social media. But it didn't lead to anything, and I am sorry to the people who enjoyed watching those videos, but I'm kind of gonna re-look at it in a way that actually works as like a good business model, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you've also got a Patreon, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Has that been going quite well for you?
So yeah, how my YouTube channel works is I'll post videos of like notation and like how to play drum lessons of how to play certain things. All the Patreon is if you want that lesson material in PDF form. So it's not anything like major. I know a lot of people use Patreon as like a major income source. Nah, it's just a like an extra thing if you for people who do enjoy the YouTube videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw your video recently about the different ways to make a living as a musician.
Yeah.
What ways have you managed to, turn into income and to, to make your living?
Yeah,
Which of
man. So I'm mainly
those?
freelance. Um, I'm like a decent writer. So I write a lot of blog articles for a few clients across different websites. Mostly drum related stuff. Some of it's been other stuff, so more general music related things. But mostly it's like drum education, drum gear, that type of thing. Yeah.
Mm. And how did you start writing blogs? What
Yeah, it
got you
was
into
just
that?
so during COVID when I was working as a teacher, during the lockdowns, there was like no school, and what ended up happening eventually is that we started teaching the kids like online through Zoom and stuff. But for the first few months, we kind of assumed school would start like next week or next week or next week. So
Mm.
in that time, it ended up being we were at home for like 2-3 months back in South Africa where I live, and for like the first, I don't know, I'd say the first month, maybe not that long, but I was just playing video games, man. I was like,
Okay.
I was still living at home with my parents. I wasn't married yet. I'm married with a kid now, so that just shows how much can happen in a few years. But I was still
Mm.
living at home with my parents, and was just playing video games. And then eventually I thought, man, I need to be doing something. Like I could probably start doing something else instead of teaching, just to kind of keep going or whatever. Because I feel like playing video games like all day is not the most productive thing. So then, yeah, I just went onto the internet, researched a bunch of things that you can do to earn money online, and then like freelance writing was one thing, and then I was like, okay, cool. How can I apply this to what I know, what skills I have? And then it turns out, yeah, there's like blogs looking for writers and stuff. Although that industry
Right.
is dipping at the moment, what happens is like Google always updates itself, and then blogs, their traffic like goes up and down. So there's like a bit of a industry dip at the moment, but it's always up and down. So, but yeah, I've been doing that for the past, I don't know, four years. Yeah,
Okay. And because so it's blog writing. You obviously teach, I know
Yeah,
you mentioned in the video, you mentioned playing for like, a corporate gig, for instance. Do
yeah,
you do any gigs that, that make you an income or?
yeah. So I live in a really small town. Gigs here are not frequent, but I do every now and then play gigs. Like the last corporate gig I played was for one of the banks here in South Africa. Had like a function for all their executive partners or something like that. I don't know. I was just playing drums, but yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's like in South Africa. If you want to be like a full time gigging drummer, if you want to get lots of gigs, you have to live in Cape Town, Durban, or Johannesburg, which are like the three big cities here. And I live in a really tiny
Okay.
city down closer to the coast.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. And what's the music scene like in South Africa?
Uh, so there's a lot of Afrikaans. It's the native language here. So that's like I don't know how would it's probably closest to country music. Um,
Okay.
so it's like country music with Afrikaans instead of English lyrics and stuff. That's really big. And then the other big one that I know of would be jazz. So there's a lot of African African jazz and like African jazz musicians that yeah, they play around.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Like I'm sure
Um,
there's other scenes, but I'm like not in them. So like I've heard that
yeah.
there's metal scenes and but I've never actually personally like experienced those in person.
But is that something that you'd like to kind of tap into? Doing
Probably not.
more?
Probably not.
No.
I'll listen to metal every now and then, but yeah.
Oh no, I meant more just gigging more and
Oh yeah,
going out
100%.
and
So
playing
yeah,
live
it's in
more.
my family's like 5 year plan is to move to one of those big cities within the next 5 years, and just so I can gig a bit more. Because I know a lot of guys. I like through Instagram. I've
Oh,
connected
sweet.
with a lot of musicians. Um, but yeah, like growing up, I always knew. That's why I became a teacher, and I didn't like just move and play straight out of school. Is because I've never wanted the lifestyle um, of like. So for me, the ideal situation would be to probably play like a weekly, like easygoing gig instead of having 5 gigs a week here and there, lugging gear around, or even traveling on a tour bus. Or I'm like a comfortable family man. So my whole
Hmm.
goal in life is to make a living from drumming, but not gig, if that makes sense. So
Right.
like I'll gig for the fun of it,
Yeah.
but I don't want to rely on it. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and I guess especially with like a touring gig, for instance, yeah, it would be you having your family now. It would obviously
yeah,
be tough to be away on the road for however
yeah,
long, if it's months at a time or um. So yeah, man. But I mean, hey, man, if if you went from playing video games in at your parents' house to making a living as a freelancer and being able to pay rent
yeah,
and do that teaching and writing blog posts, and that's awesome, man. That's inspiring.
yeah, yeah. It's gone pretty well, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, freelancing, it's not like the most reliable, but musicians are freelancers anyway, so it's not like you.
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna be paid a salary to play in a band unless you sign to like a label or whatever. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, man. And now, yeah, I guess nowadays you have to be you have to be like the Foo Fighters or something to actually make a living just gigging. It's
yeah.
it's very
Or, like I said in that video, you move to one of the most expensive towns in your country and you just get hired. You could probably play 3 weddings a weekend and you'll be making bank if you can, like, set yourself
true.
up like that. I mean, it won't be fun playing shotgun like 3 times a weekend or whatever, but if it pays the bills, you can play your fun gigs like another time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just have to,
Yeah.
you have to be happy playing, yeah, playing covers, and if that's what you're into, then
Yeah.
it's a good, as you say, it's a good way to make income.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about practice. When you go about practicing, are you
Yeah.
someone who keeps a practice log? Do you write down what you're practicing, how much BPM, and set a timer and stuff? Or are you more maybe someone who practices just by ear? And
Yeah.
how do you go about practice?
So yeah, I'm a very sporadic practicer. I'm actually a bad practicer because I only practice when I have something to practice for, if that makes sense. So if I
Yeah.
have, like, the last time I practiced for like a solid few months was when I did that exam that we spoke about earlier, which was years ago. um, but
Right.
if ever I have an upcoming gig, I'll sit and practice. And so, like, I had a gig earlier this year where I was playing a lot of African jazz, and that required like a lot of practice. So those were songs that I needed to learn. So that was more just playing the songs over and over, seeing what I can do, actually just listening instead of playing. So like active listening. But usually if I'm going to practice to learn something and play something that I can't play, I might keep a log, but that's not like a regular thing. My system is always just to, let's say I want to learn how to play like a cool groove that I saw someone play on YouTube or Instagram, or even just heard in a song, is I'll set a metronome at like a low BPM, and I'll just play that over and over for like 5 minutes, and then let's say it was 60 BPM, I'll bump it up to 65, and then I'll do another 5 minutes, and then after 2 hours, I'll be there, and then I'll do the same process the next day, and eventually by the end of the week, I'll be at full speed. That's like to me, drumming and learning stuff is actually quite easy in terms of the mechanics, because all you need to do is
Right.
train your body to play it. And then once
Yeah.
you play it, the hard part is actually just applying like feel and making it sound not like you're a robot and making it personal. But yeah, that would be like the typical practice session. Yeah, but I'm like flippin' bad at actually practicing. I like film more videos than I actually just sit and play. Yeah. And I
I
think that,
suppose though, like filming. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
Well, like you're about to say, like filming a video, you kind of have to refine it before playing it, it is like a form
Yeah.
of practice, but I wouldn't say it's what I want. So, like, yeah, I would love to be a better drummer, and I'm lazy.
It seems like some drummers are more the practice log drummer
Yeah.
when it comes to practice, and some drummers, I've been surprised at drummers that I've spoken to who have said, "Oh, I don't really keep a practice log, or I don't really have a system or anything. I just kind of sit down and usually it's it comes down to slowing stuff down, as you said,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and just honing in on something at a slow pace to make sure you get it ingrained in muscle memory." And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like everybody has their own kind of, whether it's a strict system or whether it's more kind of figuring stuff out as you go along.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody has their own approach, and everybody's
Yeah.
brain is different. Everybody's level of how long they can focus and
Yeah.
retaining information is different. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I've like I hit a point where I realized that when I was practicing, it was quite formulaic. So learning, if you break it down, you learn beats, you learn fills, you learn rudiments, you learn patterns, phrases, and then you apply them, right? But I found that as I'm doing that, I'm just learning what other people. It's a bit ironic because what I do, like, mostly is teach other people how to play stuff. Um, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this jazz gig in a month or two. So I want to practice so I can get better for that gig. But I don't want to practice certain things. I just want to become more musical or more dynamic, or so to me, like, a good practice session would actually just be sitting at the kit and just playing for an hour and just trying to push myself, like, not speed wise, but just how can I sound different or more exciting, or how can I play drums more dangerously? Because a lot of times I've seen a lot of drummers will learn how to play licks, and then you can see that they have learned how to play those licks, and like I don't know. It's like a philosophical way of viewing it, which is something I've been kind of exploring with my drumming over like the past year or so. Um, which is more of like a personal thing. It doesn't really come out in my videos because my videos are all just educational. But yeah, so when it comes to practicing for a gig, like if I have another jazz gig, I'll probably keep trying to explore that. So like I know how to play swing, I know how to play comping patterns. Those comping patterns need to match whatever the soloist is doing. But how can I, as a drummer, be more of a instrument and more of like a moving emotion for people who are listening? If that, yeah, it's a bit hippie-ish, but
No,
yeah,
no, no, no.
that makes sense.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then I guess you're sitting down, and as you said, with, for example, a jazz gig, then
yeah,
you're maybe playing with more of a jazz approach,
yeah,
um, and a, a sort of loose jazz concepts rather
yeah,
than, rather than just messing about. I guess, yeah, you're trying to work towards it in the context of the style then,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if that
Well,
makes
if you
sense.
got
Yeah.
like a pop gig, I'm gonna have to just sit there and play just like 4/4 beats and keep it locked and um yeah. So yeah, it would. I've mostly played jazz gigs over the past year, so that's kind of the mindset I'm in. Yeah.
Okay. And is there like untapped realms or genres that you would like to get into in the future?
Yo, yeah, there's not many musicians where I live, so that's why like I don't get to play that much. But I'm really into like, I mean, it's technically like a kind of jazz, but you get that like neo funk, neo like soul type of style that I follow a lot of guys on Instagram that play that type of thing. Where you just kind of you're grooving with a clap stack. If that makes sense. Like there's a lot
Right.
of that type of thing going on these days. I'd love to play that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so who are the like drummers that you look up to?
Ah, cool. So I would say my top three would be Nate Smith, um, Yusef Days. I don't know if you know Yusef Days.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah.
lot of people don't know him, and then I'm like, what? Yeah, Yusuf Days has been one of my favorite
Dude, he's
drummers for
insane.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I can't even put my finger on it, but yeah, every time he plays, I'm just like, oh, that just sounds awesome. And then Lionel Lewis, who I think is
Yeah.
the best drummer to exist. Every time I watch him in like a new video, I just think, oh my word, like how or why and like how come? He's just like so
Yeah.
musically gifted that it just he's like the musician of musicians, but he's a drummer as well. So like we get to experience musicianship on the drums through him, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it feels like no matter where his limbs go, it
Yeah,
he doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't miss a beat,
yeah,
or it's like it seems so effortless. Like it's yeah, man. He's
yeah,
Larnell is insane.
yeah. It just makes me want to
What have
support
you
him.
have you have you met have you
No,
have you
no, no.
have you
He
met
did.
him?
He came to South Africa a few years ago, but I just missed it. I like didn't actually know he was coming.
Ah, okay.
Snarky just gets great drummers. So JT Thomas and Flip. I forgot his name, but he sings as well while playing drums. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, all the Stocky Puppy drummers are always just incredible.
So what's a word of advice that you might have for kind of younger up and coming players, who wanna become full-time drummers?
Um, I don't know. I feel like so if you want to be a full time gigging drummer, I'm not like the best person to offer advice about that. Um, like my personal kind of I've seen this work in my life, right? Like as much as I'm writing about drums, the reason I've been able to kind of get it going and have like a like support a family and stuff is because I haven't been a musician. I know it's a bit of a bleak bit of advice, but that's just because I live in a small town. Like I know a lot of drummers who are full time living in a big town. So like the big advice would be, if you want to make it as a musician, you gotta move somewhere where there's a lot of musicians around, a lot of like a music scene. I know in America it's Nashville, it's Los Angeles, and then is New York. Is it? I know New York's like a big jazz place, but yeah. So like I've heard a lot of people say that. Same thing in South Africa. You got to move to Joburg or you got to move to Cape Town if you want to be a full-time musician doing sessions and stuff. Another big thing that I highly recommend is learning skills like using microphones and mixing and mastering, and because I know a lot of people who they like making like 6-figure incomes working on Fiverr, just selling drum tracks. Yeah. So that's like something that someone could get into. So, and then another thing, so if you like a full-time gigger, right? If you want to play gigs for a living, play drums, what does that schedule look like? It would be, you wake up, it's morning. Like how often are there rehearsals at 8 a.m. in the morning or even 7 a.m.? So rehearsals will likely be, depending on what it is, rehearsals will be in the afternoon to the evening. If you like in a local gigging scene, all rehearsals are all at night because everyone has day jobs, right? So if you have that downtime, what else can you be doing to make it as like a musician? So that's why I highly recommend that people get into like the freelancing gig economy, or just get a proper job. But to me, the freelancing gig economy is a lot more fun because then you're like your own boss and you like make the rules. And yeah, so my advice would be, if you want a gig, do that, but do something else as well, just to, I don't know, it's always just something that I've heard from people is like gigging shouldn't be your bread, because that's like the stereotypical starving artist, unless you're playing in like a repeat gig or a giant band. But yeah, that's just from my personal experience. Like, of course, there are drummers that have made it, like they're living the actual dream, and I have no idea how they got there, but they got there. So yeah, that would be my advice. I don't know if you can. Yeah.
Do you get much like remote recording work? Do you do anything
No.
like that?
So I am personally very bad at using microphones and stuff. So all I do for my videos is I mic it up, put it in the right position, and then I have a Logic Pro preset that kind of, and then I just have never taken the time. I know it's a bit amateur, but like my whole workflow is quite amateur because I don't have a lot of time to do it, because I mainly do all the freelance stuff. And then videos, I'll only actually film for like max an hour a day. And then editing and stuff, I'll even just use iMovie. I don't even have a proper editing software. But yeah, so no, I wouldn't feel comfortable charging people knowing that like I'm not giving them what other people could give them. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you make it work obviously with your YouTube channel, and
yeah.
and I mean the kit sounds good, and as long as it works, it's
yeah. That was kind of the thing I took, is I don't know what it is, but I don't enjoy mixing and stuff. So I'd rather just make it sound somewhat decent and then work on improving myself in other ways. And then what I'll eventually do in the future is probably like get someone to help me get a better mix. And there just hasn't been anyone around for like a while, but I'll do that, and then I can just outsource what I don't want to do. Yeah.
Right.
But that's totally, I recommend other people do learn how to do it. It's a valuable skill. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And with your videos, how do you come up with the concepts for your videos? Do you like write it down? Do you have a list of video ideas, or is it just kind of something that happens on the fly?
Yeah, so I've shifted this year. For the past 2 years, all I did on YouTube and Instagram and stuff was just post grooves and fills. Um, and the goal was just to never post the same groove or the same fill. But that's actually quite easy because if you just think about it, you got, let's say, 6-stroke roll as the concept. Then you've got eighth notes, 16th notes, 16th note triplets, 32nd notes, and then you got 4 or 5 drums. If you like use statistics, like the number of things you can come up within those parameters is like a lot. So that's how I kind of did it. I just play it in a different way, teach it in a different way, where really all it is a 6-stroke roll. Here's the pattern, then like apply it. But this year I'm like going full on with YouTube, so more the ideas are more kind of formulated. So I'm like getting into doing, like, I got a few video essays planned on different topics that are both researched and what I find interesting. Because a lot of the times, if you post something that you only find interesting on YouTube, it might not have a viewer base that also finds it interesting. If that makes sense. So like, I could
Right.
find it
Yeah.
really interesting how this desk like is made of a certain type of wood, and I could tell you where that wood comes from, but how many people would like actually like that compared to, I got a cool desk, do you want to know about it, so like it has to be more broader like material. So yeah, for the YouTube it's a combination of grooves and fills, but I'm kind of elaborating more. So yeah, so I'm getting away. I used to post like short 2-minute videos and stuff, but now all the videos, they
Yeah.
like 10 minutes, maybe just shorter than 10 minutes, just to give more value. Yeah. And then
Right.
I did a few. The one was like how to play grooves, like 30-second note grooves. So it's more like how do pro drummers play something that you don't quite understand. So a lot of pro drummers like Yusuf Days, JD Beck, they'll play like quick grooves and stuff. And a lot of drummers will see that thinking, how am I ever going to learn how to do that? But if I just tell you, look, those are just 30-second note grooves, and then you can take that idea, and then if you just type in 30-second note grooves, you'll get a whole bunch of things explaining how to play that. So I'm like really interested in explaining concepts that people think are maybe advanced, but they're actually not that advanced. Yeah. Because a
Right.
lot of pro drummers, they just take patterns and get really good at playing those patterns. So when you
Yeah.
kind of see that they do that, learning what they play isn't that hard. The difficult thing is actually like them applying it. That's the hard part, and that's why they are pro drummers, and that's why we try to be pro drummers. Yeah. So yeah, for YouTube, I'm really
Yeah.
into doing a lot of that this year. And yeah, just other just informational stuff that people might find interesting.
Sweet. And are you writing any more blog posts for Drumeo at all?
No, so Drumeo, their blog. I'm just like one of the. I'm like, if they ever need something, they'll just message me. Roland as well. So actually, I'm like in the process of doing an interview thing for Roland, but no. So Drumeo is like a sporadic thing. They're not like a main client. I do
Right.
more kind of. I've done a bit of work with. There's a guy Jared who runs Drumeo's, not the big Jared, another Jared who runs Drumeo's
Okay.
like kind of relations with like social media people and stuff. So we're doing a bit of stuff for YouTube just to also do a bit of sponsored work. And then yeah, I mainly just work for smaller independent blogs. Yeah.
Okay. And are you still posting like Instagram reels? Do you find they still work quite well, or?
Yeah, so I stopped. I mainly just so the reason I stopped, like the big reason, is that I thought, like, flip, I'm getting a lot of views. I'm gonna make a ton of money once YouTube Shorts get monetized. I'm gonna flip and be rich because I'm getting a lot of views on YouTube, and I just posted those to Instagram, um, Instagram doesn't actually pay in South Africa. I know there's a funding program for American citizens, but not South African ones. And then once the monetization came for YouTube, I was like, you know what, screw this. I had expectations, yeah, but it ended up like not paying much at all. So then I was like, I'm not going to put effort into this anymore. So the plan was always to come back, and then my wife and I had a baby, so then we were just dealing with that. So, but the plan is this year to keep posting more educational stuff. And like I said in the beginning, like you need a funnel to like give something more. And yeah, so I've started writing ebooks this year.
Sweet.
Like you were telling me before we started recording, it's nice to have something to practice, right? So what was cool is in December, I posted a YouTube video breaking down 30-second note grooves and how to play them. And then I wrote an ebook to accompany that video. So when people thought that was cool, the ebook had a bunch of 30-second note grooves to practice. So the plan is to write maybe 20 or more of those. They're not like in-depth things. They're more just practice material for certain concepts, and then post on Instagram. If people like that and they want more, there's links. Here are my ebooks if you want a bit more deeper, like things to go into. So I probably will post on Instagram again, but that's the goal, not getting lots of views. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, you see more people posting kind of ebooks and stuff like that online. I think it is a good way for, to bring value to people, but to also, make some income from it. As, as a drum teacher.
Yeah. But it's what I always did with my students when I used to teach is a lot of the drum book material wouldn't have enough. So it would be like a basic thing teaching you how to play like a 8th note groove, but then it would hop straight into 16th note grooves. And I'd be like, look, a 10-year-old is not going to jump that quickly. What I ended up doing was writing my own material just to give them more stuff to take home and practice. Like, here's 28th note grooves with the bass drum placed on in different places within the subdivision and stuff. So that's kind of where the idea came from. It's like a supplemental thing. I think like if someone's teaching you how to make money and they sell you an ebook, like that has to have information and stuff, but these are more just, they like practice material. So I always have to explain that to people, like don't buy this ebook thinking you're going to learn how to play drums. Rather buy it because you like funk grooves and you want to know how to play more funk grooves. That's the goal of those.
Right. What are you using to transcribe?
It's this free software called Aid. Aero drums.
Aid.
Have you ever heard of Aero drums?
I think so. Is that the
wireless
drums,
drumsticks?
Yes.
Yeah. So like whatever. That's a bit of a gimmicky type of thing. But Aero Drums created the software called Aid, where notating drums is like really easy compared to like a Muse score or a Sibelius or a Finale. So I use that. It's a bit limited, so it can't do like complex subdivisions, but it can do the basics. So 8th notes, 16th notes, and then triplets. So I kind of do all my stuff there because it goes really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I've only used MuseScore so far.
Okay.
And that seems to be pretty user friendly.
Yeah. I'll send you a link because you've used GrooveScribe. So GrooveScribe,
yes.
Obviously,
well, at least
GrooveScribe, Mark and the developer that made it, like they didn't develop it to make full scores, so it's more just for like grooves and stuff. So you're just dragging and dropping, but Aid works the same. It's like so much easier and quicker. I must actually send you a link.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so we're coming to the end of this episode, Brett. Is there anything that you want to plug or shout out? Something maybe you got coming up that you want people to check out?
Well, I think maybe just people go check out the YouTube channel. I've kind of been like half-arsing that for the past few years, but I've decided 2024 is the year to actually like do it properly. So yeah, I'm gonna post 3 videos a week for the next however long, and just hopefully teach people some cool stuff.
Awesome, man. And thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is, yeah, again, I live in this like small town. In my mind, I'm just a small town guy who's decent at the drums, who works online. So it's cool that you reached out to me. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I've been watching your videos for years, and
cool.
so obviously you're making waves on YouTube, and I keep seeing your videos pop up, and
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's very good stuff, man. So like it's awesome to hear that you're gonna keep posting stuff regularly, and
yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah. Awesome, man.
I think
Thanks.
more people in the world than you realize. Get value from your videos. So kudos to
Yeah,
you, man.
thank you so much, man.
Give me money.